Okay, so the video, let's talk motor mounts, because I'm probably one of the few people who have swapped multiple motor mounts. So I have the TTR lower engine mount over here, and underneath the car, they also have boomba engine mount, which is sitting on there right now, and that's kind of what I'm going to be sticking around with. So let's talk a little bit about that. I also do have the turbotech, upper engine mount sitting over there. And I also do have the PowerFlex transmission bushing, the race black one, inside the car basically. So I had that running for a while with the TTR. I just swapped to the boomba. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my experiences on that because people always ask about it, which one to get. So I will say, definitely, the TTR I think is the best for most people. So definitely with the TTR, I did not perceive a change in vibration, really. And that was the first main mod I did to the car, was to swap out the lower engine mount for the turbotech racing lower engine mount. And then later I put the upper engine mount in there, and then later I put the race transmission bushing in there. So that's kind of chronological order. And now I'm taking the TTR mount off, and I put the boomba one in there. So I can definitely say this did not increase vibration when the car was just kind of sitting there and at idle. Everything felt fine with the stock tune. And everything was great. It did reduce a lot of the wheel hop. I stopped getting wheel hop with 300 treadwear, like Pilot Sport 4S's. Stopped getting wheel hop with those for the most part, and that was actually kind of nice. If it was a really, really high horsepower and the traction was really, really bad, maybe we'll get a little bit, but nowhere near as bad. So that helped. That took up maybe 80% of the wheel hop for sure. And what I did after that was I put the upper engine mount in there. And what I will say about the upper engine mount is this thing, I don't know, that maybe took out another like 5%, maybe 10%. It didn't really take out that much. What I did like about the upper engine mount is, the upper engine mount introduced a little more of upper end whine. So if you use a TCR noise generator inside the car, that kind of upper end artificial whine I got more of a natural whine, which I kind of liked. And maybe made the car a little stiffer, I couldn't really tell. Then I put the transmission bushing in there, and with the combination of all three, what basically happened was at idle and normal mode, I would start to feel a little bit of a vibration, to the point where, like, if I switched to N mode and I had the idle pulled up to 1,000 RPM, I stopped feeling the vibration. So I would just tend to do that. I don't really ride around normal anyways, but just kind of my experiences with that. But in general, car rode really nice. Like, you could really tell that there was a stiffer engine mount in there that really did a lot to control the engine wheel hop without introducing a lot of MVH. I do really like this thing, and I would definitely recommend this for most people. The mount replacement is really straightforward. Literally, to do this thing, you just need a 19 mil socket, and you're going to need a crescent wrench or another 19 mil if you want to hold the bolt on both sides. The torque spec is about 80 foot-pounds for the bolt. I think like 40-ish for like the side bolt, so you don't really even need a huge torque wrench to do it. All you really do is, you can do it on ramps. You don't really need to support the engine, to be honest. You can manhandle the engine and everything's totally fine. Or girl handle the engine. But you can do whatever you want, and the thing will actually move around basically, because the engine is pretty much hung off of the top right mount and the top left mount. It's based for the transmission. That's what really holds and hangs the engine. This lower mount is really just there for pitch. It just controls whether the engine can go like this or that. That's really all that thing really does. So you can just do this on ramps. You don't really need to support the engine. I will say, if you have a jack underneath supporting the engine in position, it becomes easier to kind of push and pull it where you need it to go, because you have the jack helping you, but you don't really need that. If you want your life to be extremely easy though, what you do is you would get all four wheels supported and raise the entire car up equally, and then support the engine bracket, little bracket sitting in front of this thing, not the mount itself because you can't get it out, but support the little bracket in front of it, support that with a jack, and then this will just slide right out. Literally just unbolt it, whack this a few times softly, and the nut comes right off. Take it out, new one on there, mount it on there, slide the nut in, crank it in there. Push and pull the engine and it'll come right out basically. So super easy for the lower mounts. The upper mount can be a little annoying because basically this is one of the two ones that hangs the engine. So what you're going to need to do the upper mount is you do really need to get a jack underneath the car, support the oil pan or something. So I just pretty much inside the oil pan, and so it doesn't just fall in. Keep the lower engine mount in there, keep that mount in there, and they'll both kind of help hold the engine too and to contribute, so you're not putting all the mass on the oil pan. And then what you're going to do is you're going to unbolt this, pull the mount out. You don't need to take the coolant bottle off, unlike on the Veloster. And then you're going to install this on there. I would recommend you, assemble the nut first. Put this all together, and then, do I assemble the nut first? I'm trying to recall whether I did that or not. No, I would recommend, right, in the future, personally, what I would do it, I wouldn't put the nut together. I would put just the mount on the car first, bolt that in, because some of these bolts felt kind of sketchy. With everything fully assembled, I almost kind of felt like maybe it got a little bit sketch on that bolt over there. I don't think I stripped it, hit torque, but it cross-threaded it rather. But it's, yeah, the cross-threading fear is very high with these things. So if I were to do it again, I would put that mount on there, bolt that into the car, and then assemble this on the car, basically. So you're going to line these up, drop this onto the motor, put the bolt in, put the nut on the bottom of it, and you're going to tighten that, basically. This torque spec, I believe, is 150 foot-pounds. It sucks to do. What you're going to want to do for the elantra specifically is you want to get a big wrench underneath to hold this in. Actually, you know what? Let me find it. Go and dig that out. Sorry about that. Is this what I need? Yeah, that is it. Yep. So this is a 15/16. It will not focus. Maybe? No. This is a 15/16 wrench, basically. Camera's facing it right now for some reason. Not focus. Uh-oh. 15/16. So you're gonna need one of these. What I do is I take this, I sneak this underneath this over here. I basically do one of these numbers. There's that bolt. There we go. It's exactly where I left it. So just do that, hold that in position, and then put your torque wrench on top and torque that, basically. Hold this here, and then to hold the bottom nut, and then just crank that top bolt, basically. This is how you need to do it for the Elantra, mainly because with the Velosters, what the Velosters have is they have a pass-through in the engine, in the wheel well, that you can access that bolt from the wheel well, but we don't have that on the Elantra. Well, if you take the fender cover off, you can access it that way. That's one option. Actually, wait, no, that's not an option, sorry. Because there's no hole. There's no hole. There is no access. With the Veloster, there's actually an access port right through there where you can actually stick the wrench in from the fender well, but the Elantra doesn't have that. So there's no option, pretty much. You're going to take a 15/16 wrench, sneak that underneath there to hold it, and torque it in from the top. So that's how you do that mount. But yeah. I made this video to talk about the boomba. Why am I waxing poetic about the upper mount? I don't know. But yeah, so the turbotech lower mount, love this thing, reduced a lot of the wheel hop. I swapped to the boomba because I'm on a stage 2 tune right now with 6th, and I just street on the stage 2 power level. I go down to the low boost for track use. We'll try that out next. But with stage 2 power level, I think we're probably making around 340, maybe 350. I need a re-dyno. I did do a baseline so I can delta, but I think we're making around 340, 350 to the wheels right now. We have all the supporting mods. And with 200 tread wear, stage 2 power level, I can get wheel hop, which is an insane thing to say. I don't get wheel hop with the 4S's. With stage 2 power level, I just get pure wheel spin, but with 200 tread wear, I do get wheel hop, so I was wondering, can we do more? So I did a boomba, and I haven't tried it with 200 tread wear yet, but I'm pretty darn sure I'm not going to get wheel hop anymore with 200 tread wear. This is just savage amounts of stiff, and I don't think it's going to hop on 200 tread wear, even at stage 2 power level, which I'm pretty happy about. The boomba caused a crazy amount of vibration, so I actually cannot recommend the boomba personally, unless you're okay with that. So what I noticed is that at idle, it is way more obvious that like, okay, you have a stiff mount on there. With the TTR, I couldn't tell. The boomba is very, very obvious to the point where like, I have a high idle tune where my idle on all modes is 1,000 RPM. At the end mode might be a 900 in the standard tune, but my idle is now 1,000 in all RPMs, in all modes. And if I'm just sitting there at the light for a prolonged period, it feels like there's a literal subwoofer in the car just blasting out like white noise and through a subwoofer. Basically, that's how bad it is. It gets very drony, and it will become like, if you're sitting in a drive-through like I was recently, it becomes almost a little unbearable. And it's to the point where with the boomba specifically, if you clutch out and you don't fully clutch out and you're kind of on the edge of like fully locking the clutch, fully engaging it, it will vibrate like crazy. So, and I have the dual clutch here. So like what I'm saying is like at 9 miles an hour, if you second gear, you give it any throttle and it vibrates like crazy. And obviously you shouldn't be doing that because second gear is your 9 miles an hour is stall speed in second gear. So if you're at 9 miles an hour, you probably want to be in first, and if I'm in first, everything's fine. But at 9 miles an hour at second gear, and I give it a bit of throttle in the dual clutch, it vibrates like no other. I've never felt it like it's not uncomfortable, but it's just like the amount of bass going through the chassis is kind of crazy, honestly, caused by that, the boomba mount. So if you're a stick, I would caution, just know what you're getting into if you're going to use the boomba. I would recommend the TTR for most cases because you really, it's fine, honestly. This is what you expect like a street car, this is how you would expect a street car to behave. This eliminates most of the wheel hop. This is great for most cases. If you really need to eliminate all possible sources of wheel hop, or if you like just feeling like you're driving a race car, then the boomba might be right for you. That's mainly the point I wanted to make, basically. Yeah. So, yeah, let me know if you have any questions, comments on pros, cons between those two. But TTR and the boomba, I've tried both, so I can definitely say, like, the TTR is definitively, I think, the better option in most cases for these things. Also, let's back this up. Let's talk about bushings. So a lot of people do the power flex bushing. They take the original mount, rip the bushing out, put the new one in there. That's totally fine. The bushing is $30. It's super cheap. This is $200 and the boomba is $220. So the bushing, you can do that. Just make sure you have a really big vise for the bushing. I think the brake torque for the center bolt, the inside bolt in the OEM mount to take the bushing out, because it's not supposed to actually come out. There's no instructions for it, but you can take it out. At the center bolt, I think you need about like 130, maybe 140 foot-pounds of torque to break it loose. Like to take the original mount and to break it loose, you're gonna need a huge vise, like bolted to the floor. I'm not talking about like an Amazon vise you buy for $20. Like you need a proper vise that's attached to a table, and the table's not going anywhere. You put the mount on there, and then you get a breaker bar, and you break that nut loose, and then it becomes easy. But if you don't have that, I would recommend you just buy a mount, because this isn't hard to do. 90 foot-pounds is not, you can do that by hand underneath the car, but putting down like 150, 40 foot-pounds on something that's no longer mounted to the car, you literally need a big vise attached to a very rigid object, like a heavy table. And then you can it'll be easy for you. Otherwise it's gonna suck. So if you have that, more power to you. Super cheap to do the bushing, and the bushing actually does do the same job as the TTR, reduces a lot of the wheel hop, and that's exactly what you want. So food for thought on that aspect. If you have the vise, do the bushing, more power to you. If you don't have a vise, I would recommend a TTR, great plug and play option. And if you need full kill on the absolutely no wheel hop at all at whatever power level, then maybe consider the boomba. Also, my TTR mount, if you notice, is kind of like cockeyed right now, and it's aimed up a little bit. And I think the reason why it's doing that is because either the elantra engine sits a little higher on the Veloster, or maybe the what's it called again, upper engine mount is causing that. Maybe to raise it a little bit, but definitely the mount's a little bit like, it's cockeyed up, it's aimed up a little bit. It's like this, it's like cocked upwards a little bit. And it didn't impact anything drivability wise, just is what it was. It just sat a little bit higher. It just naturally settled like that over time. Some people might be asking, what the heck are these little marks on here? This is where the original mount on the car side, the bracket kind of bite in and touch that, because if you notice, like, it's the same on the other side. Yeah, it's got like a mirror image on the other side. That's not a crack, that's just like where the bushing has been kind of compressed in a little bit. And these bolts will rust out. That'll happen. I mean, this that it sees a lot of road spray, and that will happen. It's not a coated bolt. Coated would have been nice. So it is what it is. It's never really given me an issue. But yeah, also this comes with new hardware. Comes 19-inch heads, which is the same as the main bolt, which is nice. The boomba reuses OEM hardware, and I think it uses a 17 on the mount because it's the OEM mount bolt, and then it reuses the OEM cross bolt, which is a 19 mil, and they have their own additional cross bolt on the rear, which is an 18 mil. Go figure, that's what it's like on the boomba. DTR is actually kind of nice because 19, 19, the cross bolt's 19. They're all 19s, which is actually really nice because the OEM bolts are 17 over here. And the TTR already comes pre-torqued on the main bolt, so it's already nice. But yeah, moral of the story, TTR all the way, absolutely. If you need full elimination, go boomba on the wheel hop. And if you have a huge vise at home that you already have mounted, you're already set up for that, then more power to you. Get the PowerFlex bushing and just swap that out. Just be prepared for a big torque spec on that thing. Yeah, don't quote me on the torque numbers. I just know it's over 100 to untorque and retorque that thing. Yeah. I would recommend also torque striping your stuff. This is just me, but you'll notice, like, what is it? There's a little stripe here on what that is like, personally, whenever you may have saw it when you saw the boomba mount, whenever I torque things, I will torque it to spec, and then I will draw a line. And I think maybe, does it still have a line on it? That's on the car side. Yeah, never mind. So you can see it, this little crease over here. That was from, like, after you torque the bolt. I like taking a paint pen. I'm not a Sharpie, a paint pen so it lasts. Take a paint pen and then draw a line through the bolt and whatever the substrate you attached it to. That way you can monitor and just look at the line, just straight up look underneath the car. Literally, I just did. The car's not even raised. You can look underneath the car, look at the line, and know, like, did it move? And if the line breaks, then you need to retorque it. So always a good practice in my mind. Yeah, too long of a video. Let me know if you have any questions.